Welcome to Balanced Reflections. I'm Lightning Rider. Here we explore mindset mastery, travel transformations, and the art of alchemy. Join me on a wild ride around the world and into the mind, because when you change your mind, you change your world. Today I'll be sharing with you a pretty recent and pretty wild adventure I went on. Starting from Da Nang, my plan was to get up early and ride through the Hoi Van Pass and head into Hue. I've been lucky enough to ride on this road once before, many years ago. The day started off perfect, sun was shining, birds were chirping, the music was playing through my speaker, I was having a great time. The day gave me many gifts. The road was even better than last time I remembered it, because this time there was no cloud cover and there was no rain. I enjoyed the ride so much that once I got down the other side, I turned around and quickly rode back up to the top again. It's an amazing piece of road. So while we're going up here in the time lapse, the first thing I want to mention is a little saying that a smart, wise man once told me. There's a simplicity and authenticity. For too long, I've held myself back, not taking opportunities when they present themselves, worried about what people might be thinking. But the truth is, 9 times out of 10, nobody really cares. Nobody's even paying attention. And the internal narrative is just yours that your mind is playing to you. Once you become comfortable in your own skin, a whole new world opens up to you. There is only one you and you should embrace it, quirks and all. Let me ask you a question. How much of what you do is dictated by the fear of judgment of others? How often do you hesitate? Not because you lack ability, but because you're worried about how others perceive you. This is the invisible prison of external validation, and it traps you in a cycle of comparison, robbing you of clarity, creativity, and self-worth. I've spent so much of my life getting my own way, but here's the ludicrous part. No one is watching you as closely as you think. Most people are too caught up in their own lives to scrutinise yours, and even if they do, their opinions are merely reflections of their own experiences, not an assessment of your true potential. I actually didn't have much of a plan when I set off, so after completing the Hoi Van Pass, I did a quick bit of research and found an abandoned water park full of graffiti. It sounded like a cool place to check out, so I set my maps for Hoi Tui Tien and headed that way. After riding for 5 days through the jungle, we've now acquired a treadlet push bike. We're off on a mythical search for the lost abandoned water park. Mi español es muy bien. Apparently it's meant to be abandoned and nobody's meant to come here, but it seems to be a pretty big tourist spot. This is not the last time you'll see a blue Austin Healey in this video. So apparently the water park opened in 2004, but it shut down a few years later. The reasons can be attributed to financial failure. The park cost around $3 million USD to build, but it was poorly managed and never fully completed. Visitor numbers were low and it didn't turn a profit. The moment you free yourself from the need for validation, you reclaim an immense amount of energy. Energy that was once wasted on self-doubt and overthinking can now be redirected towards growth, mastery, and purpose. True confidence isn't built on applause, it's built on competence. Neuroscience confirms that our brains are wired to seek social approval. Every like, comment, or nod of recognition triggers dopamine, reinforcing the habit of seeking external validation. Over time, this creates dependency where self-worth becomes tethered to others' reactions. But the mind can be rewired when you shift your focus from seeking approval to personal progress. Your brain begins to derive satisfaction from internal achievements rather than external recognition. This shift is the foundation of unshakable confidence. People pleasing is actually a survival mechanism, left over from way back in the day when we'd be living in small groups and communities. If people didn't like us, we could be kicked out, and that would make our lives a lot harder to survive. So we learned that if people laughed at us, if we were useful, our chance of survival went up exponentially. This was my favourite part, actually, walking up these stairs and seeing the top of the water slides. This shot in particular, I was half tempted to have a little bit of a slide down, but fiberglass in the arse, no bueno. The bike was a solid investment. 50,000 dong and you got a bottle of water. After consuming a little bit of street food and a quick walk around the Imperial Palace, I headed off to find Tien Mu Pagoda. The Tien Mu Pagoda resides near the Perfume River in Hue. It's one of Vietnam's oldest and most iconic religious sites, built in 1601. The grounds are quite tranquil. They're lined with pine trees, bonsai and ancient stone turtles. The pagoda's most recognisable feature is the Phuoc Duen Tower. Sorry about the pronunciation. It's a 7-storey octagonal structure rising above the trees and a symbol of Hue itself. Thiet Quan Duc was a monk who famously set himself on fire in Saigon in 1963 to protest the persecution of Buddhists. I knew a little bit of the history, and I also knew it was Rage Against the Machine's debut album cover. It was actually quite incredible standing there looking at the car, lost in thought. I wondered what was going through his mind on his final days. Did his faith or conviction ever waver? Apparently no. He told his fellow monks that out of the fire a beautiful lotus would bloom. And now, time for our second lesson. Lesson in acceptance.
Ay, 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 mamacita.
After eating my lunch, it was time to set off and head back home to Da Nang. I was greeted with this sight. Trying to be optimistic, but deep down I knew things were about to get pretty hairy. I had limited cash on me from a questionable decision I had made recently, and I had half a tank of fuel. So instead of pulling over to buy a poncho to go over the top of my poncho, I decided to persevere and push on. The storm was hot and heavy for about 45 minutes. I started to see some blue skies and we came out the other side.
We survived! We fucking survived!
It was quite a happy moment. I pulled over, removed some of my wet clothing and attempted to dry off my poncho on the way home. It was actually surprisingly successful. Still singing songs, and I thought, looking in my rearview mirror, the worst was behind me. No way would that fly in Australia, a dude hanging out in flip-flops in the back of a truck. It's hard to believe this was the same bridge a few hours ago. So what does the power of acceptance mean? It means that there is a lot out of our control, and as humans we like to try and control everything. Once we start to realise and accept that we only truly have control over our thoughts, our words, our actions and our emotions, we get to choose where we direct our energy, and we can invest our energy into ourselves, where we get our biggest return. Oh boy, things got ugly. The lightning and thunder was relentless. This actually turned into one of the most dicey things I've done for a long time, but I did indeed make it home. My night had one more surprise in store for me, but that's a story for another time. Thanks for joining in. Please like and subscribe and share this around with your pals, your mates, your homies. Sharing is caring as I try and beat the algorithmic dictatorship of YouTube. I choose to not play the game, so I need your support. So I'm Lightning Rider, and I'll catch you soon.